What's up, roller coaster gamers? I'm back again with I just did what I think just the other day, and I felt like doing another one because I had this roller coaster on my mind at the moment. I literally, when I think of one, I just make it like that and then record it right after I'm done making the slideshow. So this what I think video is for Copperhead Strike at Carowinds, and like I mentioned, I will be going to Carowinds on the 30th of August, which is the Friday of before Labor Day weekend, right? Like it's basically Labor Day weekend, but that Friday on August 30th, I will probably be at the park. So I've obviously already been here before, and for this what I think video, I'm gonna be viewing Copperhead Strike. It's the newest roller coaster that opened at Carowinds. I had the opportunity to ride it twice. I rode it twice back to back. I had two back-to-back rides in the morning because that's when the line was the shortest, because throughout the rest of the day it was super long. So we just rode it twice in a row in the morning to go ahead and get it out of the way and get those rides in on it. And I got to ride it in the very front and very back, and we're going to get into this review starting with the statistics. It has a height of 82 feet. The top speed is 50 miles per hour. It's 3,250 feet long, and it has a duration of 2 minutes 24 seconds, and it has a total of 5 inversions. Now the stats are not that great. It has a decent track length, probably about average for most roller coasters, around the 3,000s, around there. And the duration isn't that bad, but the height and the speed aren't on this ride's side. It has a decent number of inversions. Some coasters have less inversions, some coasters have more. But it's not bad for inversions, and actually all the inversions on this, so you'll learn I actually like all of the inversions. And there's not really a bad inversion on this ride. And it's just the stats, especially the speed. The speed is the main problem. It's not about the height. I don't really care if it's not that high because of the launch coaster. If it's a launch coaster, I don't really mind that it's not tall. But the speed, it's not that fast. It doesn't feel fast, mostly because the launches are probably the least forceful launches I've been on. It's a toss-up between that and Fire Chaser Express at Dollywood for the at least for like the Dollywood's first. Fire Chaser Express at Dollywood, the first launch isn't that you don't feel much, but on the second launch going backwards, it is better because it's going backwards. But these at least I think I felt more force, even though Fire Chaser Express is more of a family coaster than this. I felt more force on the launch on the launches of Fire Chaser Express than I did this ride. But I don't think the ride is about the launches. That being said, it's not about the launches. And even though they're one of the main elements, I still don't think it's mainly about the launch. I'm going to go ahead and go into the elements to talk about this stuff. So it has 2 launches. And the first one definitely feels more like a launch. The second one does not even feel like a launch. It feels like you're just going up. It doesn't feel like you speed up for some reason. I think, it's not bad, but the first launch is definitely better in terms of force. So you don't really feel like you're accelerating at all. On the second launch, it feels like you're just gliding along the track and just continuing on, even though you technically are gaining speed on it. But here some other elements are a barn with theming. The barn is kind of like the shed on Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. I almost said King's Dominion for a second, but at Kings Island, except the shed on Mystic Timbers is at the end of the ride, at the brake run. This one is at the very beginning of the ride, right after you go through that JoJo roll, which is that one element right there, and then you turn and go into the barn, and then you have, with some theming elements and stuff, it has like a screen on the side, and it has a little short cut scene kind of thing, and then it stops, and then you launch, and there's a lot of build up to the launch, but then the launch isn't that forceful. But I still think this is the second best coaster at Carowinds just because of one, the inversions and hang time, the twists and turns, and also the airtime hills. Now, the inversions are the JoJo roll, which gives the craziest hang time I've ever experienced on a roller coaster, besides like Mystery Mine at Dollywood with the dive loop. But the hang time on that JoJo roll is crazy, and since you have a lap bar, it's really, you feel very open, so you feel like you're hanging for a long time when you go through it so slow. And it really threw me off guard. I knew it was coming. Obviously, I was sitting in the front row, but I wasn't expecting it to like be that insane. And it was one of my favorite elements of the ride, to be honest. And then you have two vertical loops. They both give good hang time, but the first one I think gives a bit more hang time than the second one. I feel like it goes slower at the top of the first one. And one positive thing, I said that it's not that fast, but one good thing to it not being that fast is that it allows you to get this hang time it has, which I think is cool. And it has a non-inverted top hat, which gives some good hang time too, and has a double up going into it. That double up makes it feel more like a cutback, but it's an inverted top hat. And then you have some twists and turns, some rapid transitions. Not like Maverick at Cedar Point, insane, but it still has some cool turns and stuff. And then you have a stangle dive that goes through the first loop, and some airtime hills. The airtime hills are actually good, like really good. Between the I think the two main coasters you're going to be looking for at Carowinds for airtime are going to be this and Intimidator. Intimidator's all floater airtime. Every hill you feel like you're levitating off the seat, and this. There is one floater moment, which is on the second launch, that hill on the second launch. But all the rest of the airtime hills, I found ejector. Especially, there's two main airtime hills that I'm talking about. There is one like right before you hit the brake run that gives a little bit, but the two main ejector moments that are awesome are the one right before you go into that second launch. There's one you kind of go like, you do this like helix thing, and then you go through one really sharp airtime hill, and everyone talks about the airtime hill right after the first loop, but that airtime hill going right before you go into the second launch was crazy. And then, of course, the airtime hill right after the vertical loop. Oh my gosh, that gave some crazy ejector airtime. I was not expecting this ride to have so much airtime. I was going in expecting, because most people said, oh, it's a good coaster for Carowinds, but it's a mock coaster, so the launches aren't that good, and it's not that forceful. You're not going to get off like saying, oh my gosh, that was a really good ride. You're just going to be like, okay, that was all right. I actually thought this was super fun. I was surprised. I think because I was going in expecting a good ride, of course, but I think this exceeded my expectations. So, you have a corkscrew too, which is probably my least favorite element of all the inversions, but still good. But man, the hang time is crazy, and the airtime hills are really good, and the turns and stuff are good too. So we're gonna get into some pictures right now. There's the name and logo, and there's the sign right out in front of the ride, and there's that first loop. And I think the reason why this airtime hill is so insane is because you go into this loop right after the first launch, right? You get some hang time there, and then you go back down, and then because this loop is higher up and this airtime hill is much smaller, and it's a really small airtime hill, you go over like boom, and you just get ejected. And then there's an airtime hill right there. That's the one after that first loop again. There's the stangle dive. I think that's the corkscrew or inverted top hat. That looks more like the corkscrew. That right there is part of the inverted top hat. I didn't really get a good picture of that element, but there's that JoJo roll. It has a fantastic like beginning, like a warm up, a tease of what the ride is going to be like, and that JoJo roll is a really good element. So, hope you enjoyed this what I think video, and again, like I said in the top 7 roller coasters at Carowinds, this made my number 2. Of course, Fury 325 is number 1 because that's obviously the best coaster at Carowinds, but this is a solid number 2. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting it to be like top 4 or 5, but I wasn't expecting it to be my number 2. I wasn't expecting it to be Intimidator and Afterburn, but it's just slightly ahead of those, just because it's above Intimidator because it's more ejector airtime than floater airtime, and it's above. I don't know. Afterburn is definitely more intense, and I do put Afterburn above Intimidator in my top 7, but at Carowinds. But I think I put this above it because I like these inversions. They're just so much fun, and it's so smooth. One of the smoothest coasters ever. This Carowinds has some I feel like Carowinds has like some of the roughest coasters I've been on, and also some of the smoothest coasters I've been on. You have like Carolina Cyclone, for example, which is a big headbanger to me, and then Nighthawk is shaky, is a little like uncomfortable too, and it has some shakiness to it. It's not as bad as people said it was, but it's still not great. And then you have rides like this, which are so smooth, silk smooth. This, I think this and Fury 55 are two easily of the smoothest coasters I've been on. And Intimidator is really smooth too. And Carowinds just has a great top 4. The rest are just okay, but this is my number 2 coaster at Carowinds, and this is what I think of Copperhead Strike. Let me know what y'all guys thought of this, and see you guys next time. Bye!